Good morning everybody and welcome to this morning's visualising lesson. So far this week you have been looking at sketch noting and drawing down what you have been visualising. Today you are going to have a go at visualising a missing piece of a story. So the learning intention for today's lesson is we are learning to visualise a missing part of a text. To be successful in today's lesson, I can imagine and visualise what I think is happening during the missing part of a text, and I can use prediction to complete the text. So on the next few slides, I'm going to read to you a text with no ending. While I'm reading, I want you to visualise what you think is happening in the story and predict what you think happens at the end. So the story we're looking at today is called Pet Sit Pandemonium, Operation Snowball. This is a Jacqueline Harvey story. Tom, did you hear what I just said? Mum asked for the second time. Mrs. Oldberg needs you to look after Pavarotti and Puss, and she wants you there at 4. I stopped stirring my chocolate milk and looked up. But she's never even let me in her house before. Why would she want me to look after her pets? I bumped into her at the shops yesterday and she told me that she read the article in the local paper about you and your friends doing all those jobs to raise money for the homeless shelter. She was terribly impressed. Anyway, make sure you pay attention to how she wants things done. You know how she's fussy. Fussy? That didn't even begin to cover it. This was a woman whose front lawn resembled a bowling green. Actually, it was better than the local clubs, especially since Rory McBain's granddad got kicked out for cheating, and he painted the words, "I hate this club" in weed killer in the middle of the grass as revenge, except that he left off the H, and so it looked like I ate this club, which he probably could have given the size of him. Why can't Celeste do it? I moaned. Really, Tom, you haven't noticed? Your sister has been away on camp all week and won't be back until tomorrow night. My eyebrows jumped up in surprise. No wonder the house had been so quiet. Mum stopped flicking through her favourite Women's Weekly recipe book. Go on, honey, Mrs. Oldberg doesn't like people being late. Okay, I'm going, but she better pay me, I grumbled. Mum's smile was brighter than the overhead fluorescent tubes that made our kitchen look like a CSR laboratory, but with a lot more mess. Suddenly, a horrible thought occurred to me. What if Mrs. Oldberg was taking one of those 357-day cruises around the world, and they'd been spruiked on a current affair last night? Dad said he thought Nana Dee'd love to go before Mum smacked him on the back of the head. As if reading my mind, Mum piped up, Mrs. Oldberg's only away overnight. She's off to visit her niece and we're back tomorrow afternoon. Yes, I clenched my fists and punched the air. Mum frowned. There's no need to get carried away, Tom. One night, surely I could survive one lousy night. How hard could it be? Now at this point in the story, this is when I want you to think about what you have visualised so far, and then visualise what you happened between this page and the end, so the next page. So let's have a look at what we predict is going to happen towards the end. Mrs. Oldberg was due back in less than 20 minutes. I raced home to get her keys. As I opened the front door, my heart sank into my soccer boots. The yowl of fighting felines filled the air, followed by a flash of black tearing down the hall, a puff of white behind it. Puss, I called out. Here, Puss. I ran into the kitchen and was confronted by more fur than Cruella de Vil's wardrobe. It was floating in the air. It was on the kitchen benches and all over the white carpet. For a moment, I felt like I could hardly breathe. Seriously, now is not the time to... So we're going to pause at that point in the story, and I want you to think about what happened inside Mrs. Oldberg's house. What do you predict happened? What did you visualise in your mind as you thought this was happening? And how do you think she might react when she gets home? Take a minute to think about these responses in your mind. So number 1, what do you think happened inside Mrs. Oldberg's house? What did you visualise in your mind was happening? And how do you think she might react when she gets home? Now I want you to take that image and draw it in your books. So those 3 questions again. So what do you think happened inside Mrs. Oldberg's house? What did you visualise in your mind? And how do you think she might react when she gets home? Think about what do the characters look like? What did their environment look like? Maybe you might have even thought about what Mrs. Oldberg's house might have looked like. Here is an example of what I saw. I predict that Tom left the door open so the cat got out, killed some animals and brought them into the house. So down the bottom, I've just drawn a few images of what I visualised. So the cat, the open door, a dead bird and Tom's reaction. I think Tom will clean up most of the mess before Mrs. Oldbag returns, but she will find feathers around the house and know something happened. So that's an example of my two predictions, what I predict happened in the story and how I predict or what I predict will happen when she returns. Yours might be similar or they might be different. That is entirely up to you and what you predicted. Good luck, and if you have any questions, please feel free to